Shabbat Shalom. When my kids were very small, we were playing in the park sandbox. The kids were struggling to share their toys, and I laughed at a t-shirt that one child was wearing that listed toddler rules. It read, "If I like it, it's mine. If it's in my hand, it's mine. If I can take it from you, it's mine. If I had it a little while ago, it's mine. If it's mine, it must never appear to be yours in any way. If I'm doing or building something, all the pieces are mine. If it looks just like mine, it's mine. If I saw it first, it's mine. If you are playing with something and you put it down, it automatically becomes mine. If it's broken, it's yours." Like most humor, there is some insight unveiled in this joke. No matter our age, we don't share very well with each other. We acquire things and for the most part are possessive over how they are used and who gets to use them. We parents turn to a small child and say, "Let this other child who you just met have a turn with the pail and shovel that you brought from home." But this logic does not continue throughout our lives. We don't expect to hand over our car keys to someone we don't know to take a turn. We don't even think of sharing most of what we have. Our sense of possession is hardwired. We work hard and we reap the fruits of our labor. Even in terms of tzedakah, charity, how many of us give as much as we can? This week, our Torah portion reminds us that we are commanded to share what we have with others, and to do so with integrity in such a way that upholds their dignity. Not as a favor to them, but as part of our central identity as Jews and as ethical human beings. The word tzedakah does not mean charity. It means justice or righteousness. This distinction is important. This week, we read in the Torah about the concept of giving of that which we grow and cultivate. We may have instinctively thought of the fruits of our labor as solely belonging to us. After all, we bought the seeds, we own the lands, we planted and grew the food. But straight away, the Torah tells us of the first fruits that we grow. Take a selection of the first fruits and bring them to the place that God chooses for God. Immediately, part of our bounty is given to God. Does God need this fruit? The fruit given to God reminds us that we don't own it. It helps us to acknowledge that all the blessings that we have in our lives, we have because of God's beneficence. The Torah goes on to instruct us to make an offering and say, "We remember when we were slaves in Egypt. We remember how God brought us to freedom with a strong hand and an outstretched arm, with signs and miracles. You, God, brought us to this land flowing with milk and honey, and now I have brought these first fruits that you, God, have given me." Giving the first fruits helps us to accept in a visceral, concrete way that we cannot keep everything for ourselves, that we are obligated to give. The Torah goes on to say, "You shall also give portions to the Levite, the stranger, the orphan, and the widow. They shall eat it within your gates and be satisfied. In the third year of giving portions, you shall say in God's presence that you have followed the commandments for giving regularly to those who are less fortunate." Not only are we obligated to share our fortune, but we are obligated to do so consistently throughout our lives. Sharing what we have is not only a kind and thoughtful act, it's an act of moral justice, and it is an expression of hope. When we help others, we embody the ideal that we can rely on each other, that we will take care of each other, that we will reach out our hand to our brothers and sisters in need. We assert our belief in the interconnectedness of all people, and it is precisely what we need right now. Rabbi Rami Shapiro writes, "Acts of generosity are essential to our spiritual life. Are you apt to give less in the hope of having more? The next time you wonder how far you are progressing on your spiritual path, don't look only to the sacred books on your shelf, but also look to the checkbook in your drawer or your purse." The main reason to give tzedakah is to help those in need and to honor our responsibility to care for one another. But at the same time, Jewish tradition emphasizes how the act of giving does more for the giver than for the recipient. Perhaps this idea exists to incentivize us to give and to overcome our tendency to be self-concerned. This idea that tzedakah does more for the giver than for the recipient permeates throughout Jewish tradition. We read in the Talmud, "The poor man does more for the householder than the householder does for the poor." And later, a commentator notes that the Hebrew word v'natnu, and they will give, when read as a palindrome, suggests that the person who gives tzedakah will find it returned to them. We don't expect that a check we wrote will come back to us, but rather the act of giving tzedakah provides spiritual reward. By giving tzedakah, we are literally rebalancing the scales of justice. We may be separated by our places of birth and by the context of our life circumstances, but what connects us is far stronger, human to human. When we see someone suffering, when we are in a position of strength, the Jewish response is clear. Whether we have wealth, sustenance, fortitude, or any other blessing, we help each other in any way we can as a fundamental responsibility as Jews. Tzedakah is an actualization of hope and faith. May our giving of tzedakah help to shape a better future. Shabbat Shalom.